The black Labrador pressed his nose against the toddler's leg and held it there for 40 seconds. 40 seconds is a long time for a dog to hold its nose against anything. And Dana had been timing it, because Dana was a researcher in behavioral ecology and was constitutionally unable to observe something without also measuring it. She had started the stopwatch on her phone at 6 seconds when it became clear this was not a casual sniff. 40 seconds. The dog's name was Fig. The toddler was her son Eli, 18 months, who was sitting on the kitchen floor eating crackers and tolerating Fig's attention with the philosophical acceptance of someone who has lived with this dog his entire comprehensible life and regards him as a feature of the landscape. She noted the location, left shin approximately 3 inches above the ankle. She noted the behavior, sustained nasal pressure, nostrils working rapidly, no licking, no movement. She set the phone down and looked at Eli's leg. She did not see anything. The skin looked normal. Eli was not favoring the leg. He had walked from the living room to the kitchen 10 minutes ago, without a limp. He had not complained of pain, which was not diagnostic because 18-month-olds are not reliable reporters of pain location. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you are in the right place. Subscribe so you do not miss the next one. The following day, the area where Fig had pressed his nose was warm. The day after that, it was red and slightly swollen. The day after that, the third day, Eli was limping. She took him to the pediatrician on the 4th day, which was later than she would have gone in retrospect. She had attributed the redness to a minor skin irritation, then to an insect bite. She had not, in the first 3 days, connected it to what Fig had done on the kitchen floor. The diagnosis was preseptal cellulitis, a skin infection that had started as a small cut or bite site she had not noticed and had been progressing beneath the surface for several days before the visible inflammation appeared. The pediatrician prescribed antibiotics and told her it was caught at a manageable stage. She asked when it had likely started. The pediatrician said, "Infections like this typically show skin level signs 3 to 5 days after the initial bacterial introduction. Based on where you are now, onset was probably 4 to 6 days ago." Dana did the math on the way home. Fig had been at Eli's leg on day 1, or possibly day 0. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. She was a researcher in behavioral ecology. She spent her professional life making conservative interpretations of animal behavior data because her field was a field where overinterpretation of animal behavior was the most common methodological error. She had written 3 papers explicitly critiquing studies that overattributed intentionality to observed animal behavior. She sat with this for a week before she let herself think it directly. Her dog had detected a bacterial infection in her son's leg before any visible symptom was present. He had detected it through olfactory channels at day 0 or day 1, had communicated it by pressing his nose against the precise location for 40 seconds, and she had not understood the communication. She wrote about this in her lab notebook, not for publication, just for herself. She wrote, "The note was accurate. The receiver failed." She read the literature on canine bacterial infection detection after that week. The studies were inconsistent in methodology, but consistent in direction. Dogs detect the volatile organic compounds produced by bacterial metabolic processes, including the specific compound profiles of gram-positive cocci, the class that included the organism responsible for Eli's cellulitis. Detection threshold in the best-controlled studies was in the single-digit parts per billion range. The infection had been producing these compounds since it began. Fig had been reading them since they were present. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never asked for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Not as a case study. The sample size was 1, and her own child, and she was aware of the bias problem this created. But as a methodological note, anecdotal reports of domestic dog detection of pediatric bacterial infections in the early presymptomatic period deserved controlled investigation. The signal was there. The receiver was human and fallible. The study design needed to account for that. 2 colleagues replied to the note with their own anecdotal reports. 3 more added similar observations in the comment thread. Fig was at the kitchen floor that evening, doing what he always did, which was to track the movement of crackers from the box to Eli's hand to the floor. Eli ate 3 crackers and dropped 1 for Fig, which was not a protocol Dana had designed, but which both parties had agreed on without consulting her. She watched Fig's nose, the continuous small movements of it, the processing of everything in that kitchen at molecular resolution. She thought about what it would take to design a study that captured this properly. She started a new page in the notebook. The receiver needed to be better. She was going to work on that.